because we're taking you around the world, okay? Yes, we are taking you around the world, and you do not need any visa. You do not need your passport even. Just stay right here, tune in, give us all of your attention, and I promise you, we're taking you around continents from Asia to America to Europe. Why? Well, it's simple. We want you to learn from these countries so we can make our nation and our economy better for it. Well, today, we're basically building on last week's conversation around exportation. Oh, yes. But just before we get into it, if you're joining us from any part of the country and you think, wait a minute, I need to get other people on this jolly ride, then tell them to head over to uh, SMEgrowth.ng. That's the website with which you can watch us live. Just by the way, if you don't have a radio connection where you're at, but if you have radio, if you know someone who has radio, tell them to tune in to Radio Nigeria, wherever they are, and they can get to be a part of the show. So you can listen on air through Radio Nigeria, or you can listen online at smegrowth.ng. So you can watch us live on YouTube. Yes, you can see the video of me speaking right now, and eventually of our guests live in the studio. Just go over to smegrowth.ng, and you can get access to us live in the studio. So let's get right into it. As I said earlier on, we're building on last week's conversation around exportation. And this is very important because this is one of the major building blocks of our economy. It is through exportation that we're able to make more money as individuals, as companies, and as a nation. And that way we're better for it. Yes, Nigeria has a potential to be a top exporter of goods to all the parts of the world. Yes, 200 million people. That's no joke. That's enough to cater well to the needs of a substantial population of the world. But the challenge is we're not there just yet. Yes, we're not there. We're not on the list of top 10 exporting nations, not even on the list of top 20 or top 30, top 40. No, we're not there in spite of all of the potentials that we have. So on the show today, we're going to those countries that are doing well, the top 10 countries globally who are doing great work with exporting, to basically find out what they're doing right. How are they able to achieve that feat? How are they able to sustain it? And how can we pick one or two things from them so we can use it for us here in Nigeria? If you're ready, let us get right into it. But just before that, again, you can be a part of the show through a call or SMS. Yeah, you can be a part of the show. So pick up your phone and save this number: 0916 257 1214. That's 0916 257 1214, or 0700 7000 I'll take it slower. Are you ready? All right. 0700 7000. If you're ready, I'm ready. Let's get right into it. As always, let's bring in our panelists, and they're making a comeback for the second week now in a row. We have joining us on the program this evening the head of Exports Office Trade and Exchange at the Central Bank of Nigeria. The Central Bank of Nigeria is the apex bank, the number one bank, the regulator, Pata. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome with me, Salamatu Abubakar Ahmed. She joins us on the show today. It's good to have you back, Salamatu. Also joining us is Dr. Anthony Anichebe, who's the sector lead, a Greek and non-oil export at Polaris Bank. You're welcome, Dr. Anichebe. Also, Oladipo Olariwaju is the departmental head, Trade Finance, Keystone Bank. It's good to have you, as well as Emmanuel Wallo, who's a team lead, export and agric at Fidelity Bank. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome. Thank you so much for taking time out to once again tackle this all-important topic on exportation. So let's get to the questions. I know that there's a lot to cover on the show this evening, so without taking much of your time, let's get right into it. The goal basically is to look at the case studies of the top exporting nations in the world, and maybe others we may find notable, maybe in Africa. And the goal is to talk about how they've used their comparative advantages and leveraged people, technology, raw materials, government policies, and all of that to achieve that great feat. And naturally, I'll begin with Salamatu. And my question is simple. As always, we're building the foundation for this talk. When you look at Nigeria as a country, how would you rate Nigeria in terms of ranking in the list of exporting nations globally and on the African continent? And maybe to speak to our strengths as well. How well do we rank, Salamatu?
Good evening, Kayode. Good evening, panelists and the audience.
Good evening.
Well, you actually answered the question before you started, Kayode, when you said not the top 10, not top 20, not top 30. Actually, in a global ranking of exports, we're currently doing around 52, I think. Yeah, but um, we're not doing bad in terms of the variety of products that we're exporting. Maybe we can do more, yes, agreed, but we're not doing badly on a global scale. And in Africa, I think after South Africa, we're second. Yeah, so that's it for ranking.
There you go. So Nigeria currently is at well, not top 10, not top 20, clearly,
Mhm.
but being the country that we are, 200 million people, you would expect that we'll be top 10. Because if you look at the population of the world, we're top 10 when it comes to population, right? So naturally, when it comes to the other good things, exporting GDP, we should also be top 10. And that's why we're having this conversation. So let's look at the countries that rank top 10. I just wanted you to corroborate that Nigeria is not top 10, top 20, top 30. So people don't think I'm just making this up. So let's look at the countries that are doing very well in terms of exportation. Number one is China. Oh, yes. China's global share of exportation, as at the last count, is about 14%. That's about $3 trillion plus. That's how much China exports. Next is the United States of America with about 8.5% global share, at least. That's more than $2 trillion. There's also Germany coming in third. There's Netherlands, Japan, Italy. So we'll stay with the top six for now and basically get into what they're doing right. And I'm going next to Dr. Anichebe. Uh, I've mentioned the top six countries who are doing great when it comes to exportation globally. Again, Nigeria is not near that, but we have that potential. So maybe looking broadly, starting with China, which is the number one. Dr. Anichebe, what is special about China? They don't have two heads today.
Thank you, Coyote. You know, like you mentioned, I mean, China has actually about, sorry, China has China,
Let's go ahead, Dr. Anichebe.
yeah, China has value of 3.5 trillion value of exports, and you know what that means, as you said, 14%. Actually, for China, is because this journey came into peak. You start in 2010. You start when they were emphasizing exports, emphasizing exports, SMEs coming into major exports, becoming export hubs, incentivizing exports, providing a lot of infrastructural support for export to boom, looking at how to also emphasize high impact goods for export. You know, what do I mean by high impact goods for export? You may just from Nigeria export cocoa, but if you do some processing, add value to cocoa, you also able to then enjoy premium price for the value addition that you have done. So those are actually what China that you have done.
All right, Dr. Anichebe, apologies for that. I see there's that feedback on your audio, but you said some very important things about how China is able to stay at number one. But I'm glad you've acknowledged that they don't have two heads, right? And I mean, going just 2010, when things really picked up for China? Yes, it's been a build-up from there, but at least we can learn some of the things that China did right. And you've mentioned a few of them. So let me bring in Oladipo Olarewaju on this one. Maybe you want to speak to the China case. We've studied China for quite some time now. What have we learned so far, Oladipo?
Yeah, thank you once again, Kadi. It's a pleasure. China is quite a unique case, like we all see, with the diverse range of export products, which includes electronics, machineries, and even textiles, something that we used to boast in back then. Today, we'll probably see textile materials from China itself, and practically everything you could possibly see in the market. The legend is that China can produce it. China now produces our own local delicacy, like the cassava flakes, commonly known as gari. But then again, when we look at China as a case study, the export success is driven largely by their large manufacturing base and, more importantly, their competitive pricing. Just demand it or make a request for it and China will produce it. They'll probably produce it for you at the specific at your specifications. And if you have any pricing requirements, they are quite willing to accommodate it. And another thing going for China is probably the large human resources, like we said, something that we have going for Nigeria also. But perhaps part of the government incentives could also be said to be one of the things that is going for China. So largely in summary, you can look at the large manufacturing base, their competitive pricing, as well as their population as part of what is going for them. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Olarewaju. Again, Mr. Oladipo Olarewaju, pardon me. Again, I'm happy you've acknowledged that they don't have two heads, right? These things are possible. So let me go to Emmanuel. And still on the China issue, we'll move on to other countries. But he said something very important about government support. I mean, is that something that we can also harness in this part of the world? And what will government support look like in Nigeria to boost exportation?
Okay, thank you. I'll probably just mention something I think which he skipped and is very, very important. One is the fact that so we have the population, China has the population as well, but then China has been able to transform that population into human resources. But we have not been able to transform our population into human resources, basically. So, and what does that mean? It means that we've not been able to empower and educate a large, segment of our population to be able to acquire the necessary skill sets, to be relevant, to be able to help to move the economy in the right direction. So that is one. So as a government, we now need to take, very a closer look at that to ensure that, look, our population must make the population work for us. Okay, very key. Then again, talking about now, going back to your question, so what the government, what the Chinese government have done is that they've been able to come up with a lot of instruments, right? To incentivize exporters. So you have, credit insurance. You have all manner of instruments that they're helping to support their trade. Let me surprise you. Now during the COVID, when because China is an industrial base, right? So what they did was to provide insurance, credit guarantees to the exporters, to the businesses. What does that mean? It means that, look, yes, they are telling them, look, when you ship, even if you're shipping to a troubled countries that have political instability, and there's an issue around payments, we, the government, we pay you. They are there to provide that insurance against, risk of non-payment. So what that did was to help, it kept the factories running, all throughout that period. So they were producing, right? And so the kind of risk that the businesses in China faced were no different from what the risk other businesses in other jurisdictions faced, because the government was there for them to tell them, look, if you do this and there's any issue around payment, we are ready to provide that needed insurance or kind of guarantee to take care of your risk. So all manner of instruments that the government have done to help, alleviate, and more importantly, to is infrastructural support. It is very, very key. And if you look at our jurisdiction, right, if you dimension your cost as a business in Nigeria, close to 50%, is attributable to power. That is extraordinarily very high, right? So for you to be able to succeed, for you to be able to produce and make and be competitive, because you are not just the only one in this space, for you to be able to produce and be competitive amongst other producers of the same product, then you have to drive your costs low. So what the Chinese government is doing or have done is to provide significant infrastructural support by way of, providing electricity, road infrastructure, rail infrastructure, all the transport infrastructures you can think about. Every other thing that is required to make businesses thrive and to be competitive in the global space. That is what the Chinese government have done to help their industrial base and to help Chinese businesses. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mr. Emmanuel Walor. I think it's great to see things from that perspective, seeing how government can play a huge role in basically backing up producers, manufacturers, so that they can export. They're not worried about, wait, is my product safe? What if something happens? No, the government is protecting them. So let's talk about America now. So in terms of exporting, China leads America. But that's not to say America is a pushover, right? America is still second. And I'm coming back to Salamatu. Perhaps you want to speak to some of the points Emmanuel raised about government support. Is there anything that some people maybe don't know about? But let's talk America as well. It looks like America is very diversified, right? Nigeria focuses largely on crude oil export. But America, yes, has crude oil. In case some people do not know, America actually has crude oil that they export. But they're not just exporting crude oil. They have a variety of goods, products that they export. So does it mean that Nigeria can also have it all and not necessarily focus on crude oil alone? And how well can we learn from America's case? Salamatu.
Thank you, Kayode. Like you rightly pointed out, America has similar export products with us, but of course we're at different stages of development. So they have more improved technology. But in addition to petroleum products, crude and refined gas and other products, Nigeria also exports non-oil products. And I think what we need is to just ramp up on that. Basically, I think like what the government is doing, and government has been consistent in that. There's a council which is called the Nigerian Export Promotion Council. They're doing a lot in the non-oil space in terms of government support. So yes, to diversify our export base, because that's the whole essence of setting up of the NEPC, the Nigerian Export Promotion Council, and several other government agencies are in that space facilitating export and giving support. As you know, at some point, the central bank was also giving intervention loans to export-oriented businesses. Yes, so that's some of the government support that has been in place in Nigeria. Thank you.
So there you go, some of the government interventions available, the NEPC and the rest. But just a quick follow-up on America's case. When you think America, there are lots of things that come to mind. You think of Hollywood, for example. You think of Silicon Valley, everything in the same place. And you look at just the GDP of the state where you have all of that, and it's bigger than some countries combined, right? So maybe we could talk about the role of technology and innovation as well. And I'll come to Dr. Anichebe. There's a question I'm keeping for you, Dr. Anichebe, but I want you to speak to America's case, particularly innovation and technology. Is there an opportunity for Nigeria there as well? There's a lot of talk about artificial intelligence, our leapfrog moment. Are we missing this opportunity? How well can we latch onto it to improve our exports? Dr. Anichebe.
Thank you. Indeed, I mean, you've mentioned it, and America, there's economic diversification. From services. It's not just automobiles, airplanes. They service. For example, they had over 1 trillion coming from services, export skills. So it's important that constantly, innovation and technology, you need to deploy it to, first of all, what it does is that it ramps up the quality of your products. So with technology, you're able to have a production of high quality products at a lower cost. So not just that you have quality, premium quality production, you also have it at low cost, which makes it competitive. And they've further driven it with alliances, entering into some strategic alliances like NAFTA, TPP, Trans-Pacific partnerships. All of those things opens up the economy through tariffs. But what they've done with innovation is unprecedented. Deploying technology to make sure that they're on top of production, churning out, being the first, having a pioneer move, moving into various areas of the economy, deploying what is cutting edge, using cutting edge technology to deploy the best at the least competitive price. Making sure there's research and development to be able to support after sales program. So that puts them on competitive edge in terms of the offerings. The offerings is not just diverse. You have premium quality, design best in design, making it a global standard. Things coming from America, a global standard, you can say is almost the best, competing with parallels. So, and that's what it has done. We've created a unique market position for their products through technology and innovation. Again, that's it again. You can see the Apple phone model, constantly churning out. As you're on iOS 16, they're moving to 17, 18, and they're never stopping. So they keep on disrupting, breaking new heights in terms of offering the market using technology, and that's what it does for you. So it's giving them a good mileage, good strong pedestal in the market, such that everybody recognizes that this is made in American product, and made in American product is unique and sustainable. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anichebe. Just as you were speaking, as Salamata was speaking as well, there was this, this desire welling up inside of me. Nobody has said they have two heads. So I'm thinking we have that same head. We have maybe more natural resources if you look at it. We have a very driven population, a young population in Nigeria. And if you're listening to us out there, this is a financial literacy and public enlightenment radio show brought to you by the Bankers Committee. Well, this radio program is meant to equip you with the right knowledge to be better in your personal finance, your business, and ultimately for the good of our nation's economy at large. And today we're taking a look at the case studies of successful exporting nations across the world.
For the good of the nations, nations across the world. We have visited the largest exporting nation in the world, with over 3 trillion annually in export.
To do the numbers,
if you do the numbers, $3 trillion. If you try to convert it to Naira, you run out of zeros. Just to get a sense of that. But China is doing that, and they're waxing stronger, giving America a run for their money.
America is also following closely with all of those products that we've talked about. So if you want to be a part of the show, if you've got any idea, if you've got questions, if you just had that eureka moment and you want to ask our experts on how to go about it, and how
you can be a part of the show via or WhatsApp on 0916 257 1214.
That's 0916
257 1214. Or if you want to just call by the usual, calling mode alone, you can do 0700 7000 977. That's 070 0700 0977. So let's get back into the conversation. We've talked about China. We've talked about America. We have a caller on the line. Let's quickly take this call before I come to Oladipo and Olariwaju. Okay, we'll hold on that call till we get back from the break. Let me quickly take your thoughts. And we're moving on to Germany, Oladipo. Germany is known for a lot of things. Back here in Nigeria, when you say someone is a German machine, so you're doing German, you know what that means? It means efficiency. You just know that anybody who's called German machine is very efficient. And that's what Germany is known about, hence their third position as the largest exporting nation in the world. So what are the lessons that we can learn from Germany, Oladipo, in terms of engineering, manufacturing excellence, and efficiency?
Thank you once again, Coyote. Well, Germany, like you said, it's quite known for its more or less high quality engineering and manufacturing. I think one of the things that we know Germany for is the automotive industry. I mean, we've all seen it. Like you said, when you hear German machine, and I think Germany actually started on this path, took up this reputation since as early as the World War I and World War II, when we knew how they started building great machines, war machines particularly. But I mean, they didn't just stop there. They extended it into civilian use. And today, we see quite a lot of brand coming out from that country. They are very, very good at machinery and chemical products, which are the major contributors to their export proceeds. That has given birth to companies today like Volkswagen, Siemens, Mercedes, and all the other likes. People would swear by German machines. Some people can't even drive any other vehicle, especially after trying it. What we hear is that there's an addiction to that German feel whenever you do that. So one thing they have done is to really leverage on that quality assurance, and they made sure that they maintained it, which speaks to their innovation and technology, which they invest in heavily in research and development just to stay ahead in technology. And then another thing that they have going for them, which is something the United States also has, is strong trade relationships. I don't know how that is going for the US right now, but since we're talking about Germany, we see strong trade relationships in the aspect of forming trade alliances and trade agreements. Maybe we're learning a little bit of that in Africa too, with recent trade agreements that we're trying to leverage on. But essentially, the innovation and technology of the German nation has actually been a great speaker to the success of the country as an exporting nation. And of course, they also enjoy quite a number of government supports. In the trade space, we know quite a number of trade instruments that you can use in when you are trying to import, especially machinery from Germany. Various programs from the government to encourage their exports. So these are some of the things that Germany has to going for them in terms of their export success. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Oladipo, for that. We need to take a quick break now. We still have a lot of ground to cover. We still have to talk about Netherlands. Oh, yes, agriculture. And I'm keeping that question for Dr. Anichebe and others on this panel because Nigeria is big on agriculture. We still have Japan to go. Japan is responsible for one of the most popular car brands here in Nigeria, at least, aside the German machines. Japan is responsible for one of those car brands, which everybody wants to use because it's efficient, right? And of course, there is Italy with the luxury brands and all of that fashion. So there's a lot to still learn. We still have 3 more countries to go. So we have to do a quick stopover right now on the show. This is a financial literacy and public enlightenment brought to you by the Bankers Committee. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
It makes sense. I didn't come here, please, already. Calm down. I go pay. Please, I no fit pay. Chai. Wetin that? Why everything just cost like this?
Na dollar.
Dollar. How?
Baba, na true now. See your shoe. Made in Italy.
Your shirt made in Turkey. Even car where you carry come, made in Japan. How all these ones think affect dollar? You know, say for the price of dollar to come down, get what we suppose they do. We suppose they export past waiting with the import. We suppose they buy more made in Nigerian products. Make they support local businesses. And if we go carry dollar enter Nigeria or any other foreign currency, make they use international money transfer agents.
This is my friend, he took get sense. You know what will happen? Give up the bill, make it pay. Country people, make we join hand, reduce the pressure on top our naira. This message is from Bankers Committee.
As part of its Financial Literacy and Public Enlightenment Monday, the Bankers Committee has come up with the 2025 MSME Radio Show. The objectives is to deepen MSME understanding of the evolving changes in the subsector, business strategies for growth, and various national and international policy. Financial experts from deposit money banks, development partners, regulatory institutions, and successful entrepreneurs would arm listeners with premium financial knowledge. Tune in to the network service of Radio Nigeria between 5 to 6 p.m. every Monday. Topics to be covered are cashless policy and alternative payment channels, contactless payment options, sourcing FX, agency banking, raising capital, and cross-border trade. To find out more or register, visit www.smegrowth.ng on Facebook and Instagram at Bankers Committee, FLPE.
Well, thank you for staying with us on the Financial Literacy Public Enlightenment Radio Show, brought to you by the Bankers Committee. So yes, if you're an MSME, even if you're a nano, it's not just micro we're focusing on nano businesses as well. This is the place to be. But in case you know any other person or business entrepreneur who might need all of the information that we're churning out on the show, please, by all means, ask them to tune in right now as a matter of national importance. Tell them to tune in to any Radio Nigeria closest to them, or they can just go online and use this address, smegrowth.ng. That's smegrowth.ng. And they can get to listen to the show live online. So they can watch it or interact whichever way they want, ask their questions on YouTube or Zoom. We are here for them. Today we're talking exportation, call it whatever. The point is expanding your business beyond the Nigerian market. Yes, you may be doing 100 customers in Nigeria buying your goods, but guess what? There's a whole market out there. You can have access to millions and billions of people outside the country through exportation. But we're putting a twist to it on the show this evening. We are learning from other countries who are top exporters in the world. We're learning how they've been able to get to the top and how they are keeping their positions at the top. We've looked at China, which is the global leader in terms of exporting. They're the largest with over $3 trillion of market share. We've looked at America. What is America doing differently? How are they able to brand themselves, and sell these goods to the world? We've also looked at Germany. Just before we went on that show, we're talking about Germany, the German machines, the excellence, and all of that. A lot to learn on the show this evening. So let's buckle up for the second phase of the conversation right here on the program. And just before we went to that break, I was going to come to Emmanuel to talk about some of the things you may have noticed about Germany, but I'm itching to move over to Netherlands, right? Because there's a lot to talk about in Netherlands. Netherlands is the fourth largest exporter globally. Netherlands market share is about 4% plus, with almost $1 trillion in exportation. And guess what they're big on? Agriculture. Yes, that same agriculture that you overlook, that you look down on, that you think is a dirty job. Well, guess what? Netherlands is cashing out big on agriculture. So Emmanuel, what are the lessons to learn from the Netherlands? Because it's the same agriculture, it's the same farming, it's the same animal husbandry that we are doing, that they're also doing, but they're doing it way better, right, Emmanuel?
Okay, so it's all about strategy, right? So we need to be strategic. As the people, we need to make that decision. We need to ask ourselves what is it that we want. It is interesting for you to know that, yeah, Netherlands is one of the. I mean, looking at their numbers, we're talking about over $1.6 trillion annually in export earnings. That is massive, right? So what they have also done is they have been able to, acquire those necessary skill sets to go into processing big time. So here we'll talk about agriculture and all. A number of the primary production don't take place in Holland. Though Holland is a very small country by way of land area and all of that, but they import a lot of these inputs, right, from Africa and most of these other smaller countries, and they process them. So you see a lot of cocoa bean export going to Holland, but then they ship chocolate out. So they were able to transform these products. So they have a very robust industrial base, and that is what we're talking about. So for us as a people, we have to make that ultimate decision. Look, without infrastructure, we can't do so much. Okay, so international trade is a highly competitive space. Now, the products are basically the same, the end product are basically the same, but the question then is, what is the cost? How much are you bringing this product into this space? That is the difference. So if I'm producing chocolate, for instance, as a country, and China is producing it, and Netherlands is producing it, and Ghana is producing it, how much are we landing those products into that market? So if yours is cheaper, then you become more competitive. It means you command a greater percentage of the market share. So what Holland has been able to do is they have been able to help build their industrial capacity, to get these products out at a price that is competitive and all of that. So what I'm saying is you will have to tackle the problem from the roots. We must educate our people. They must have the right skill set, right? We must have, that industrial revolution. There has to be an industrial revolution in this country because we are so blessed with human resources. We are so blessed with natural resources. We have some of these natural resources in abundance, right? So as a people, we have to be strategic. Now, all of these countries that we're talking about, China, United States of America, Germany and the likes, they were strategic. So we need to be strategic. We need to take that decision. We need to ask ourselves, what is it that we want? And then, of course, we start building, towards that. But that question has to be clearly defined, and then an answer needs to be provided. That is the catalyst that which is required, for us to launch ourselves into that desired space, that can give us all the necessary leverage to be able to compete globally.
Oh, brilliant strategy.
We need to sit down, and that's why we're having this conversation. Everybody's seated, by the way, so this is one of the sit down opportunities to
basically have this all-important conversation. 0916-257-1214 is the number to call, or WhatsApp, or 0700 7000 977. If you're an entrepreneur and you love these ideas, or you see opportunities here and there, and you're thinking, wait a minute, there's plenty egg that I think we can produce, but maybe these challenges here and there, call us on the show. Let's trash those issues together for the good of your business and the nation's economy. Just before I come to Dr. Anichebe, because I know that agriculture and non-oil export is your thing, let me go to Salamatu and also get you to speak on the Netherlands case. As it has been said, Netherlands is a very tiny country, right? But they're able to, in spite of that, make the most of what they have. Recently I had a conversation with one of the foreign envoys to Taiwan who was saying that, well, in their own country, they don't have natural resources. In fact, all they have is big natural disasters, but they have brain. While in Nigeria, we have all the natural resources, right? We don't have as much natural disasters. In fact, you can count the few that we have, which is sometimes, human related. But the point is, in spite of their own challenges, they're able to do great stuff. They're the largest microchip or semiconductors manufacturers in the world. So look at Netherlands, back to Netherlands. In spite of that, they're doing great stuff. So what are some of the lessons to learn, particularly for agriculture, Salamatu, from Netherlands?
Thank you. Thank you once again, Kayode. So, the Netherlands, as you know, they're big on agriculture, in addition to petroleum products and other stuff. But what I've observed in their own case is the efficiency with which they produce the agricultural products. They have this, they use horticulture as a method of, producing some of those agricultural products, and the efficiency and the consciousness of the environment, the cost, like the earlier speaker mentioned about using technology to produce higher quality products for less. So they have that advantage in the sense that they operate in these clusters, agricultural clusters, similar products, similar, in clusters, and then proximity of those clusters to logistics and other infrastructure that they need to produce those particular agricultural products. I think for me, I would say that maybe that is the way to go for Nigeria, because like you rightly pointed out, we're endowed with enormous resources, but maybe the way we're going about it is the issue. And as you know, horticulture is a very knowledge intensive way of farming. Perhaps maybe we need to have emphasis on equipping the human resource with the knowledge that they need to go into those efficient methods of farming, so that way we can harness the potentials of that sector. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Equipping them is very important. So let me come to Dr. Anichebe now. A lot of things have been said, but there's also that challenge of, okay, I have land, or I've been able to get land, and I've planted, let's say, corn, right? And it's time to harvest. But there's a challenge of logistics, a challenge of distribution. That value chain is also very important. It's not enough to just go into farming. There's a whole lot that makes that farming now become profitable. There's storage and all of that. What can we learn from the Netherlands, Dr. Anichebe, particularly in terms of those other parts of the value chain that can make or mar this dream of becoming a top exporter when it comes to agriculture?
Well, thank you, Kayode. Indeed, you're right. I mean, logistics, transport, processing, very much important, which is all lumped under infrastructure. So the infrastructural condition has to be right. In terms of Japan, they've been able to use their natural, in terms of Netherlands, they've been able to use their natural gas reserves to be able to improve on power supplies. So you find out that as you process, I mean, you need to have storage systems, facilities to make sure that things are, even the ones that have to be in standard temperature, the ones that have to be green climate, which is you have some controlled environment to raise crop production. So to those green environment, controlled environment, you need to be able to have them to be able to grow some certain crops. So the weather is also temperate, but beyond the weather is what they have been able to transform it with, having good transportation system when you move produce from one city to the other. I mean, some of those produce having refrigerators in them, so being able to have the production add value to enhance the shelf life of the produced product. For example, we are rich in tomato, but what do you have in our own case? In our own case in Nigeria, what do you have is, a situation where the losses due to lack of storage systems, lack of processing. So when you have tomato, give it 4 days, 5 days. If you're unable to sell it, there is no other usage for it. So, but in Holland, which is Netherlands, you have processing system that those produce are being transformed, value added, so you can have them all right round throughout the year. It's not just seasonal product. They're able to buffer it out and make the product available, being able to export it. They have facilities. They have funding to access to funds from government finance, low-cost financing, to be able to do all those value addition, to be able to process it, to have the technology know-how, to be able to churn out those products in a very appealing way that will compete with export markets. Having able to sort it out into grades, whether it's the cashew that they take care, they're able to process it, sort it out into some grades, being also able to export it back, even to us. We are the ones that supply the cashew, but they will process it and also begin to send it back to us. And they would have added value, taking away, the value addition that we would have also taken premium from. So those are the kind of things: storage system, transportation, the roads are better, so you don't have a kind of, wear and tear that you have on vehicles. If you do a vehicle that's supposed to be there for 4 years, in 2 years, the vehicle is already dilapidated because of the high tier wear and tear. But all of those advanced countries like Netherlands, you have it, and the roads are smooth, even down to the farms where you have the produce being produced. You have rail, you have a lot of all those infrastructure. They're able to make transportation cheaper and to be able to compete with other districts. They also have good tariff. The tariffs are friendly. So able to use a trade arrangement to attract good tariffs so that their products can also find ways in other markets and be able to compete, because they're able to enter into some agreements, some trade and agreement with neighboring countries to be able to export their products without the restrictions and high duty. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor, for that. We needed to really hear that. I like the way you break it down, really. Just in case you're listening and you're thinking so many challenges, so many issues. Well, one of the best things I've heard so far in my life is that when you see problems or challenges, they are actually solutions, really, because there will never be a need for a solution if you didn't have challenges. A solution just loses its meaning, its purpose without challenges. So whatever challenge you're identifying as a result of this conversation are solutions in disguise. So we need to start thinking, right? We need to start thinking as a people that we can champion this and push it to government to put the right policies in place. But we also have to be ready. They say when the student is ready, the teacher will show up. But we have 2 more countries, case studies to look at today: Japan and Italy. Oh yes, Asia is doing great stuff, having 2 countries, first China, now Japan. And Japan is responsible for a lot of products people are probably using right now. If you're driving a vehicle in Nigeria, at least, it's either Toyota or Honda, or yes, you can thank Japan for that. Or Mazda. Yes, you can thank Japan for that. Or if you're watching your television right now and you're watching us on YouTube, or there's air conditioner close to you, you can bet that Japan is probably responsible for it. Maybe it's Panasonic or what have you. So how is Japan able to do all the great stuff they're doing? So let me come to Oladipo right now. And we all know Japan for high-tech exports. It goes without saying, we know these things. What are the opportunities for Nigeria to learn from Japan and maybe be able to produce our own high-tech products in the nearest future?
Yeah, thank you, Kayode. There's been a lot of takeaway for me personally from what all of Mrs. Salamatu, Emmanuel, and even Dr. Anichebe have said so far. And everything we've been saying around all these countries as we rotate from one to another, we keep on hearing practically most of the same factors that have been responsible for their, success in the exports industry. We hear about their technological innovations. We hear about brand promotion and some of the aggressive policies that the various governments have done. For me, if we're doing a takeaway, we have already established the fact that Nigeria is equally an exporting country. What we are trying to aspire for is to grow that exports industry tremendously, so that at least we can derive more from it. And last week I mentioned something about what we know as the concept of the comparative advantage, which essentially encourages you as a country to focus on those things that you are richer in, so that you have more advantage in churning those out. And Nigeria essentially is very, very rich in raw materials and agro-allied agricultural products, also mentioning or talking about cash crops and all of that. But the mistake we would keep making is to be complacent about, churning out those things. And like we see, even in our oil export industry, recently, the introduction of a new refinery has been doing a lot in turning around the current situation, especially in the terms of energy. If we can try to replicate this, because this is what the other countries are doing. Other countries are focusing on the finished products. Other countries are trying to, I think it was Emmanuel or Dr. Anichebe that mentioned one of the countries, maybe Netherlands, not really rich in natural resources, but what they do is to get these natural resources as raw materials and then produce them into finished goods and then sell them back. We have quite a number of some of these countries that do that a lot. And the idea is really about adding value to raw, adding value to the very basic, adding value, not just picking up, that cashew nut and packaging it and sending it out, but going further ahead to make it into whatever you can derive from it, whether it's, finished nuts, whether you want to package it into chocolate and, create a different brand of products and, push it out there into the world. It's something as little as a different ingredients that will just create that Nigerian brand, and then you start hearing Nigerian chocolate. Just a little bit of tweaking here and there can just be the marking difference, that makes it. So yeah, maybe what we lack in technology, we can try to import it. I think back then, there used to be things like encouragement of technological importation and transfer of technology, where you actually attract, other countries or other entities that have that knowledge, bring them in, have them spend quite a number of time, and in that process, build a transfer process over time. It can even be for as long as 10, 15, 20 years. And the idea is to really, really grow into it such that you are able to stand alone at the end of the day, right? And that's part of why, quick one. And that's part of why, in recent times in the FX regimes, the central bank has been trying to encourage more than any other thing, the importation of machineries and raw materials, which when we bring it in, we're able to, use these things to actually produce and add value to our goods for local consumption or even, exporting them out. Thank you.
There you go. Thank you very much for those points, Oladipo.
We are running out of time. This is a very important conversation. I know that, but we're bound by time. So in wrapping up this conversation, I'm coming to Emmanuel, and we need to mention Italy. So Italy is the sixth case study we're looking at on the program today. Italy is known for luxury goods, all those brands that men and women just aspire to wear and say, I'm wearing this and that. A lot of them are gotten from Italy. And we have leather in Nigeria. Never mind that we eat a lot of it in our vegetables and the rest, but we have leather. We're able to also, if we put work in it, we're able to also get our textile industry running and maybe have a new generation champion it. So as we wind down in about a minute or so, Emmanuel, lessons from Italy, the luxury, fashion, and design capital of the world.
Yeah, thank you. So it also tells you what the power of imagination, right? It gives us what the limitedness or the kind of thing that if you put your mind to, you can always achieve, right? So it just simply tells you that, and I keep saying this, a number of the European countries, Italy, France, and all of that, of course, France as well. It's also, you can also attribute a number of these luxury products as well to them. But what the point we're making here is that these are like states in Nigeria, right? But they have been able to get it right. So they've been able to, and this is all about taking advantage of competitive advantage. Taking advantage of what you have, the best, what you can do, the best you can achieve with the very little that you have. So these are people that are very creative. These are people that are very industrious. And all they needed to do was to have a niche in terms of experience, and they've been able to tap into it. And more importantly, beyond these items beyond these luxury goods that we'll talk about.
Yeah.
It is also about their skill in marketing these products, right? So they have that marketing skill to be able to drive, awareness of these products and be able to get this product into the marketplace and tell the world that, look, this is the best that you can get of this from any other place in the world.
And that's a great place to anchor, Emmanuel.
Exactly.
Pardon me.
Okay, thank you very much.
And thank you for reminding me that France also plays a huge role. In fact, France is known as the capital, so it's a back and forth. But Italy, in terms of global export, does better. What a conversation we've had today, and I'm glad we're able to have it. Look at this, this case studies, and I'm hoping that a lot of people are inspired by these case studies. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to thank you so much. Salamatu Ahmed, Head of Export Office, Trade and Exchange, CBN, Dr. Anthony Anichebe, Sector Lead, Agric and Non-Export Polaris Bank, Oladipo Olariwaju, Departmental Head, Trade Finance, Keystone Bank, and of course, you just listened to Emmanuel Wallo, who's a Team Lead, Export and Agric, Fidelity Bank. Thank you once again for your time on the program. And on behalf of the production crew, the engineers, Daniel Kwe, Rowan Oladejo, Olatunde Abdul-Latif, the studio manager, Sebio, the assistant producer, the producer is Maria Huma, director of Lagos Operations, Bolale Uyemi. And of course, I am Kayode Okikiolu, the anchor of the show, gentleman of press. Thank you so much for being a part of the program. We're back next week with some other juicy conversation. So keep it locked right here till we're back. Don't forget, always make profit, and God bless Nigeria.
Makes sense. Calm down. I go pay. Why everything just costs like this?
Na dollar.
Dollar. How?
So,
Na true now. See your shoe, made in Italy. Your shirt made in Turkey. Even car where you carry come, made in Japan.
How all these ones think affect dollar?
You know, say for the price of dollar to come down, get what we suppose to do. We suppose the export pass within the import. We suppose they buy more made in Nigerian products. Make they support local businesses. And if we go carry dollar enter Nigeria or any other foreign currency, make we use international money transfer agents.
This is my friend, he took get sense. You know what will happen? Give up the pay, make it pay. Country people, make we join and reduce the pressure on top our naira. This message now from Bankers Committee.